Hi, this is Kez, aka Chameleon Makeup. You can also check out my other channel, For the Love of Wigs, where I talk through all of my wig collection and tips and tricks on how to improve wigs. I'm all about everything makeup and wigs. It's what I love to do, it's my passion and it's my hobby. So that's a little bit about me, and let's get on to the important stuff now. Today I'm going to be reviewing and doing a demo of the Sirens palette. Now this is by Jolie Beauty. It has only just released and it is amazing. They teased this, and as soon as I saw the tease I thought I need this palette in my life. I love all things mermaids and I love greens and blues, so this palette was right up my street. It comes with a really nice mirror that says you look simply mermazing, and it's got this little mermaid print around it and the Jolie Beauty logo. The colours itself are beautiful. There's a range of finishes on this palette, so you've got some mattes, you've got some shimmers, there's some chrome shine. There is actually 2 multi-chromes in here, and they've also got some multi glitters as well, so different finishes in there. Some of them are more satin, some of them are sort of more matte, but there's a real nice mix in here. The website doesn't do these colours justice because these 2 multi-chromes here are amazing, and you will find that multi-chromes actually cost a lot of money. So the fact that this palette retails quite cheaply at around £40 and you get 2 multi-chromes in it is bargain for me. Now looking at the name shades, we'll start on the top row. We've got Seashell here, which is kind of like a lavender. Now this one is like a satiny shade, so the finish on it is like a pearlescent satin. I'd say, although it's mainly pink, there's a little bit of silver in there. And then we move on to Hop, which is a really nice sort of muted mauve shade, which I really think is nice. Again, it's like a lavender stroke mauve shade. It's really pretty. I'd say that's probably, although it is a matte, there is a little bit of a sheen to it, I think. And the same with Ocean here. That's a really nice blue. It's more of a teal, I'd say. Then you've got Sirens, which is just a really rich green. That's really nice. Shipwreck is a green shimmer, but it has got like a brown undertone to it, which is really nice. And then Sunken is one of these multi-chrome glitters. Now, I did find this one easier to pick up than one of the others, but you can see the shimmers in there. There's a lot of gold in there and green, and there's a dark base in there as well, which is really pretty. Temptress is like a mustard colour, which I think is really nice to have in a palette. Unlike a lot of mermaid palettes, this one has actually got a lot of darker shades in, which are sort of more sea-like, and I've got to say that I really love that. This one here is called Ursula. And again, this is like a multi-chrome glitter. I did find this one a little bit harder to pick up, but I think you just need to warm it on your hand first. There's a lot of purple in there, but there's also blue and pink, you can see as it moves. Now when you look at it palette on, it does look more purple, but there's a lot of green and other colours in there. That's a really pretty one. Starfish, this is a matte purple. It's kind of like a pinky purple, so more of a mauve. And Atlantis, I'd say this is like a shimmer, and that's beautiful blue. Really love that shade. I think it's probably teal with a hint of green in it from what I can see. This is my favourite shade in the whole palette. This is Siren. Now you can see there it's blue or green, but if I turn it that way you can also see it's purple. It is a multi-chrome shade. It flicks between purple, green, and there's some blues in there as well. It's very hard to catch on the finger, but if I move it around you can see how that changes shades. That's probably one of my favourites. And then Triton is a very sort of mossy green, and it's a matte shade. Pearl is the other multi-chrome. Now this flicks between a strong yellow and a strong green. In the palette it looks very green from where I'm standing, but when I'm showing it in photos it does look yellow, but it has got a strong green base to it. If I hold it like that you can see the darker green flicking through it there, and that's really, really beautiful. And then the last one on this row is Kraken. Now this is a brown, but I would say it's got hints of like a mustard in it as well, and that's a matte shade. I am loving these grungier tones. I do think that the grungier browns do actually complement the other shades really well. It's almost got 2 sides, so you've got your greens, purples and blues this side, and then you've got those grungier darker greens into browns and also black there. It has got a staple black at the bottom, which I think is really good and essential to a palette. So moving on, we have Odyssey, which again is on the purple side. It is a different purple to the others. I'd say it's probably got a slight pink reflect in it. And then we've got Mermaid here. Now that is definitely more on the pinkier tone. It's hard to see what the reflects are in it. It's generally sort of like a satiny matte, I'd say. Then we've got Scales here, which is another one of those glitter shades. It's mainly blue, but it's got greens and things in it as well. But the colour shifts show better when it's actually on the skin. We've got Floating, which is a really nice blue there. Now that is probably a pure matte shade, I'd say. The mattes have got a very strong pigment to them, which is brilliant. And I like the fact that they have like a buttery texture. We've got Delusion here, which is another one of those flickers. There's a lot of green in that, but also blue. It actually looks quite green, but when I'm holding it face on towards me, it does look more blue. But there is a lot of green in there as well. So I'd say that's mainly green and blue mix in there. Lord is a real dark green, like a mossy, and Drowning is another one of sort of those mossy colours. Now they are all slightly different shades, although some of them do look alike. When you see them side by side, it's almost like it goes down a tone scale. So if one isn't quite right, it's too dark or too light, then you can always go down to the next colour. And that's why I think these are going to blend really well. So we're coming back to here now, and we've got Moonwake, unusual name, but that's a really deep purple. Tail, and you can see what I mean about the colours being similar but going down the scale there. And then we've got Sailor, which is a very deep blue. Now sometimes when you have this shade of blue in a palette, you put it on your finger and it's very black based. This one isn't, it retains the blue in it, which I think is brilliant. And then you've got Rocky, which is a really nice sort of, it's like a grey toned blue. So we've got Undertow here and the Deep, and I'm going to show you these side by side just to show you that they are different greens. So Undertow is the lighter shade, and then you've got the darker green here, which is the Deep, and then Stormy is black. Now it doesn't look very dark when you see it in the pan, it looks more like a charcoal grey, but it does come out quite black, and you could build that up quite a lot. So they're all the shades. There really isn't any shades that are difficult to work with, just from the swatching. I'd say they all swatch quite well. As I say, the glitters do take a little bit more work, but I've got to be honest, I'm not an expert with working with glitters anyway. And I think the secret to glitters is you have to pick up a lot of product. And I'm always quite hesitant to do that because I don't want to waste product. But let's do a look with it and see what it looks like on the eyes. So I'm going to start off using the P. Louise eye base. This is shade Rumour 2. This is. You can see from here it's a well-loved base that I use quite a lot. And if ever you've seen the P. Louise tutorials, the idea is to pat, pat, pat. And the more you work this base into your eye, you need it to sort of be mattified, because that's when it works best. So don't just put it on and leave it. Do pat it down to make it work for you. The mistake I made when I first used this base is I just put it on my eye and left it, and I didn't think it was very good, because as far as I could see it wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. But then I read up about it and realised that it was me not using the product correctly. You do have to pat it in, and once it's sort of demi-matte maybe, it does work really well. Now we're not going to worry about the edges because my foundation's going to go over that. This is just for the purpose of showing you the eye look. I have got a flat P. Louise brush 7072 that I'm using here. I suggest if you like this base, get one of the bigger ones, because you'll find you're using it all of the time. I'm going to take a fluffy brush to start with, and I've got a Spectrum A08 here. You can see it's quite fluffy. And I'm going to put a product along the top first. I'm looking at these colours and I just love them all. But because I particularly think lighter colours work well over the top, I'm going to go in with Seashell first. Now when you put it on a brush, there is a very slight amount of fallout. It's not a lot, but just tap it with caution and be aware that there is a little bit of fallout there. You can see straight away that that colour shows. There's no hesitance in trying to build it up. As soon as you put it on your eye, it shimmers. And I think that's really nice. It is a very pearlescent shade, I'd say. You can see the purple in there, but it does sort of reflect almost blue as well, and maybe white. As you move your eyes, it does change colour. And I'm just going to put it all along the top. I'm not putting it on the lower bit because I'm going to put another colour there. Doesn't matter if one goes into the other because I'm going to blend it all in anyway. I love playing with new colours. I want to take a brush now that's a little bit denser. So I'm going to use this one here. This is the BH Cosmetics and this is 8. So it's still fluffy, but it's denser. It's sort of more packed together in terms of this. And I'm having a look to see what shades I want to do. And I think because I'm going to do like a smoky eye, I'm going to go in with Sailor first. And I might pack some black on afterwards. But I want to see how this blue performs on the eye. Look at that. First touch and the pigment is there. And I'm going to pack this on. I'm going to take it over about half of the eye. I really love a blue that actually comes out blue. I hate it when you see it in the pan and it looks this really nice shade. And then you put it on the eye and it just turns into a black mess. This blue actually does the shade justice. And that is Sailor. The first one was Seashell, just to remind you of the shade. So that's gone about halfway across the eye, which is what I wanted. And now I'm going to put another colour on. I'm going to keep to the same brush. I do have one of these little thingies here that you can brush your brush along and it takes all the excess colour off. So that when you're using your brush, it then removes all the colour. It just makes it easier if you want to use the same brush for switching shades. And I'm going to go in now with the floating shade because I think that's a really nice teal and I want to play with it. So I'm going to pull that over here. I'm not blending at the moment, I'm just placing the shades. I like the way as well this palette pairs together well. For example, if you wanted to do a monochrome look, you could use floating as your matte shade, but then you could use Atlantis as your shimmer shade. Now, as I say, there isn't a great deal of fallout at all on the palette. You always get a little bit with high pigmented shades, but it's not going all over my eyes here. So that's a good sign of good quality. I do like those two blues together, so I'm going to stick with them. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit more of Sailor and just build up the intensity there a little bit. This one is the matte one again. And what I'm going to do is when I put this on now, I'm just going to pull it into that shade there just to blend the line out so that they follow into each other. Right, so now I think rather than take black, I'm going to take a little bit of the deep, which is more of a green, but it's a very dark matte green. And I'm just going to blend that into the very corner of the eye there. This is a really pigmented shade. You don't need a lot of the product. So that's just given the corners a little bit more depth, but I have lost a little bit of the blue in there. So I'm just going to intensify that. Don't be afraid to keep going back over the shades. That's what gives you the intensity. So I really want this to stand out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Pearl. Now this is the multi-chrome shade, but I'm going to apply it with my finger because that's where you get the best out of these. And I'm just going to dab it on that area there, put it in the middle. This does show very yellow on camera, but when you look at it off camera and the light's moving, you can see, well, you can see it better on that eye, you can see the green in it as well. Depends where the light's hitting it. You can intensify multi-chromes by adding a little bit of setting spray or a product that is designed for the multi-chromes. I'm just going to take the seashell shade again and blend all the shades along the topping together, because I don't want it to look like a separate colour. I want it to look like it's part of the blend, and it also softens the edges here as well. What do we think? I'm just going to clean up my eyes underneath now. There's so much versatility to this palette. You could use so many different blends of the colours to give you what you wanted. I think what I'm going to do to complement this is to just put a green eyeliner underneath. I've got this Urban Decay one, which is Freak 24 Hour. I'm going in with a lighter green just so that it matches that shimmer in the middle. There we go. You can be your very own mermaid. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe for more videos from me. I hope you've enjoyed the first look at this lovely palette, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.